What if the very emotions you chase, love, validation, excitement, are actually holding you captive? What if the most powerful men aren't chasing these things at all, but rather observing them from a quiet, unshakable distance? Pause. Thoughtful expression, deep gaze. Sounds a bit provocative, right? Maybe even a little unsettling. We're constantly told to feel your feelings, to embrace every emotion. But what if there's a profound, almost dark revelation hidden within that perspective? What if true strength lies in a radical different approach, one proposed by a philosopher named Baruch Spinoza, centuries ago? I remember a time not too long ago when I was completely at the mercy of my emotions. I made impulsive decisions fueled by anger or a desperate need for approval. I chased fleeting highs and then crashed into debilitating lows. There was this one particularly painful breakup where instead of calmly processing what happened, I let my rage and insecurity take over, sending countless regrettable messages that only made things worse. Looking back, that moment of utter regret, that feeling of being completely out of control, was my personal spark. It made me realize I needed a different way to navigate my inner world. I needed to understand what truly moves us, and if there was a path to clarity and power beyond the chaotic waves of emotion. And that's exactly what Spinoza offers. That moment of regret, that feeling of being completely out of control, was my personal spark. It made me realize I needed a different way to navigate my inner world. Because the truth is, while emotions are a fundamental part of being human, their overwhelming nature can often be our greatest undoing. We often hear about emotionless men in a negative light as if it implies a lack of care or a brokenness. But what if that perspective is entirely wrong? What if in this context, being emotionless isn't about nihilism, but about clarity? What if it's not about bitterness, but about a power? This is the radical idea that Baruch Spinoza, a 17th century philosopher, introduced. His core thesis challenges our conventional understanding of emotions. Spinoza argued that emotions are not just simple feelings. He saw them as confused ideas that fundamentally cloud our judgment and enslave us to illusions. Think of it like this. Imagine trying to navigate a dense fog. That's emotions clouding your judgment. When you're consumed by anger, fear, or even overwhelming joy, your perception of reality becomes distorted. You're reacting from a place of passion, not reason. You make decisions based on temporary surges of feeling, not on clear, rational thought. And for years, I let my desire for approval dictate my choices, only to find myself lost in a fog of resentment and confusion. I was constantly seeking external validation, allowing fleeting moments of happiness or crushing waves of anxiety to steer my entire life. Spinoza offers a way to cut through that fog, to truly see clearly, and to reclaim control over your internal landscape. He offers a path to freedom from the tyranny of irrational passions. Spinoza's radical idea that emotions are often just confused ideas holding us captive leads us to the core of his philosophy that emotional detachment isn't a weakness, but the highest form of self-possession. It's about achieving true freedom or liberty. Not by suppressing feelings, but by understanding their causes and choosing to respond from reason rather than reacting from passion. This isn't about becoming a robot devoid of all feeling. It's about gaining mastery over your internal world so that your emotions serve you rather than the other way around. When you understand why you feel what you feel, you gain the power to choose how you react instead of being swept away by the tide of your passions. For Spinoza, a truly free person is one who is guided by reason, who acts with clear understanding, and who isn't tossed about by external circumstances or internal turmoil. Let me give you a concrete example. Imagine someone insults you, a reactive person. Fueled by immediate anger, might lash out with harsh words, escalating the conflict and potentially damaging the relationship or even their reputation. But a Spinozan observer, someone practicing emotional detachment, would note the insult. They would then calmly analyze its cause. Is this person projecting their own insecurity? Are they having a bad day? Is there any truth to what they're saying? Or is it just noise? By understanding the cause of the insult and their own emotional response to it, they can then choose a reasoned response, or sometimes no response at all, which is often the most powerful choice. It's about seeing the emotional drama for what it is, often a confused, irrational expression, and refusing to participate in it unconsciously. I vividly remember a time when I put this into practice. I was working on a really complex project, and a colleague under immense pressure publicly criticized my work in a meeting. My immediate gut reaction was a surge of anger and defensiveness. My face felt hot, my heart pounded. The old me would have instantly fired back, probably making the situation much worse. But in that moment, I paused. I took a breath. I consciously detached from the raw emotion. It was as if I was watching myself from above, no longer trapped in the emotional storm. I observed my anger, acknowledged it, but then I shifted my focus to the cause, his stress, the project deadline, not a personal attack. And because I wasn't blinded by my own reactivity, I could calmly respond, asking clarifying questions about his concerns rather than engaging in a shouting match. The outcome. We found a solution, and my professional relationship remained intact, even strengthened. That's the power of truly understanding and applying emotional detachment. It transforms you from a slave to your passions into a master of your own destiny. That's the power of truly understanding and applying emotional detachment. It transforms you from a slave to your passions into a master of your own destiny. And this leads us to what I call Spinoza's dark revelation. The hidden reasons why some of the strongest, most influential men today seem to feel nothing. On the surface, it might look like apathy, coldness, or even a lack of humanity. But delve deeper and you'll find it's anything but. It's not apathy, it's a strategic withdrawal. It's not bitterness, it's a profound intentional choice. These men are actively choosing to leave the chaos that defines so much of modern life and to rebuild in silence. Why would they do this? It often stems from a deep, profound exhaustion. With the constant emotional drama, the irrationality, and the endless pursuit of external validation that plagues our world, they've realized that emotions, when unchecked, are often the very chains that bind us, leading to endless cycles of suffering, misunderstanding, and regret. They've seen how others, and perhaps themselves in the past, were constantly tossed about by fleeting feelings, making erratic decisions, and sacrificing their long-term well-being for short-term emotional gratification. These aren't men who can't feel. They are men who have learned the cost of being controlled by their feelings. They understand that to truly build something meaningful and lasting, whether it's a legacy, a thriving business, or a profound sense of inner peace, they must first master their internal landscape. They recognize that the most effective action comes from clarity and reason, not from the reactive impulses of passion. They've made a calculated decision to trade the fleeting highs and crushing lows of emotional reactivity for the quiet, unshakable power of self-possession. I noticed a distinct shift in my own perspective as I began this journey. The constant noise of external validation, the push and pull of emotional manipulation, the need for everyone to like me. It all started to sound like a distant, irrelevant hum. It was still there, but it no longer held the same power over me. What truly mattered was the quiet conviction built from within. Think about some of the most composed, impactful figures you admire. They rarely react impulsively. They observe, they process, they respond with precision. It's not because they lack emotion, but because they understand its nature and have chosen to be its master, not its servant. I've observed this quietly in mentors and successful individuals around me. They often seem detached from the daily dramas that consume others. They're not uncaring, but they're incredibly discerning with their emotional energy. They focus inward, cultivating an unshakable core that allows them to move through the world with purpose, unburdened by the emotional turbulence that sidelines so many. This is the essence of Spinoza's dark revelation. This isn't about being cold or unfeeling. It's about a profound, almost spiritual detachment that leads to true mastery. And if any of what I've said resonates with you, that deep exhaustion with emotional drama, that yearning for clarity, that quiet pull towards something more stable within yourself, then consider this a wake-up call. This is a wake-up call for those who feel the urge to isolate themselves, not out of despair, but out of a desperate need for peace and clarity. It's for those who desire to transcend pain, to move beyond merely coping with life's emotional blows and instead to truly master them. And ultimately, it's for those men who feel a deep primal calling to reclaim their masculine soul, to embody strength, reason, and an unshakable inner core. It's crucial to understand that in this context, isolation isn't always negative. Sometimes it's a necessary step for our self-recalibration. It's the deliberate act of withdrawing from the incessant noise of external demands and emotional turbulence to hear your own inner wisdom. It's in this solitude, this quiet space, that you can truly begin to cultivate the philosophy of stillness and control. This philosophy teaches you to master your inner world before engaging with the outer. Think about it if your internal state is constantly in flux, dictated by every passing emotion or external stimulus. How can you effectively navigate a complex world? But when you cultivate stillness within, you create a solid, unshakable foundation. This stillness isn't passivity. It's a powerful, active state of mind. It allows for deeper insight, clearer judgment, and more strategic thinking precisely because it's free from emotional bias. There was a period in my life where I felt this profound need to withdraw, not out of depression, but out of a desperate need for quiet. I intentionally pulled back from social events, limited my news consumption, and dedicated time each day to just be. No distractions, no external input. It was uncomfortable at first. My mind raced. My emotions tried to pull me in a million directions. But I persisted. And slowly, in that stillness, I truly began to hear my own thoughts unclouded by external noise or internal drama. Silence, for me, became a powerful tool for self-discovery and control. It was in those quiet moments that I could dissect my emotional reactions, understand their root causes, and consciously choose a different, more reasoned response. I learned to observe my feelings like clouds passing in the sky, acknowledging their presence but not getting swept away by them. This inner mastery is the true essence of Spinoza's wisdom, a path to ultimate freedom not from feeling, but from being enslaved by what you feel. It's about building a fortress of reason within your own mind. Building that fortress of reason within your own mind through stillness and conscious detachment is the essence of true self-mastery. And that brings us to the core of Spinoza's profound message. Until you genuinely understand and embrace this philosophy of emotional detachment, you will likely remain a bow slave to impulses and external forces. Your decisions, your reactions, your very sense of self will be dictated by the ever-shifting tides of passion, not the calm, steady hand of reason. Ultimate freedom, as Spinoza taught, isn't found in external circumstances. It's not about what you acquire or who approves of you or what goes right in your life. No true freedom resides in the mastery of your inner state. It's the liberation that comes from no longer being controlled by anger, fear, desire, or even fleeting joy, but by understanding them and choosing your response from a place of clarity and reason. This path isn't easy, and it's not for everyone. But for those who seek true power, clarity, and peace, it's the only way. It demands courage to look inward, discipline to cultivate stillness, and a willingness to challenge deeply ingrained patterns. But the rewards, that unshakable inner peace, that profound clarity, that genuine power, are immeasurable. They allow you to build a life of purpose and intention, free from the emotional turbulence that sidelines so many. So, I'm genuinely curious. What are your thoughts on emotional detachment after hearing this perspective? Do you find yourself trapped by your emotions, or have you found freedom through stillness? Share your experiences, your insights, or even your challenges in the comments below. Let's create a space for honest, unfiltered discussion about these complex but vital ideas. Your story might be the very spark someone else needs to begin their own journey. And if this revelation resonated with you, if it offered a new way of seeing the world or yourself, please take a moment to like this video. Share it away with someone who you believe needs to hear this message, and definitely subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into philosophy, self-mastery, and personal power. Your support truly helps this message reach more men seeking genuine liberation and inner peace. Thank you for watching.